Hello friends, today I am going to deliver a lecture on UV visible spectroscopy. Myself Dr. Pranav Trivedi. Now once we say UV visible, so these are the electromagnetic radiation and the range of this electromagnetic radiation is 190 nanometer to 800 nanometer, where 190 nanometer to 400 nanometer which is for UV and 400 nanometer to 800 nanometer for visible radiation. So according to electromagnetic spectrum, if we can see here, so these are the particular electromagnetic radiation frequencies that we can easily see, in which continuously energy increase whenever we go from bottom to top. The same way, wavelength continuously increase whenever we go from top to bottom. So here the correlation between the energy and wavelength is inversely proportional to each other. So energy is directly proportional to frequency and inversely proportional to wavelength. So this particular, according to equation, we can understand that energy if higher, then wavelength must be shorter, and if energy is less, then wavelength must be longer. Now if I want to say that what is the unit of this electromagnetic radiation, so we can measure in wavelength as well as in frequency, and that's why certain different units are also there in which we can measure the electromagnetic radiation. These are nanometer, micrometer, angstrom, centimeter inverse, etc. etc. This UV visible spectroscopy known as electronic spectroscopy, in which absorption of radiation in this region causes electronic transitions. Now if I am talking about the electronic transition, then what is the meaning of electronic transitions? So electronic transition means whenever electron absorbs certain amount of energy from the incident light or from the source, it can migrate from lower energy level to higher energy level, and that's why we can consider it is an electronic transitions. These electronic transitions are perfectly quantized. So here the word quantized, what is the meaning of that? The radiation which is absorbed has energy which exactly equal to the energy difference between the ground state and excited state. So here we can consider delta E is equal to E1 minus E0. So from E0 to E1, if the amount of energy difference is 5 kilocalorie per mole, then the same amount of energy we can obtain from the radiation or electron can obtain from the radiation, then the electronic transition is possible. This is called quantized energy. According to UV visible spectroscopy, there are 4 possible electronic transitions are there. One is sigma to sigma star, pi to pi star, n to pi star, and n to sigma star. These are the 4 possible transitions are there, and this transition is possible from HOMO to LUMO. That means what? Highest occupied molecular orbital to lowest unoccupied molecular orbital. These electronic transitions also have an energy order. The highest amount of energy that we require for sigma to sigma star transitions and lowest amount of energy that we require in n to pi star transitions. Because sigma bonds, these are symmetrically bound, and that's why we require more amount of energy, and that's why the wavelength for these transitions we get always less. After that there is a n to sigma star, in which slightly higher amount of energy that we require for the transitions, and that's why the wavelength must be decreased. Same way if we go for pi to pi star and n to pi star, so highest amount of wavelength we can easily find it out in n to pi star transitions. So this is all about electronic transition, and these electronic transitions only possible through selection rule. So certain transitions are disallowed, certain transitions are allowed, and certain transitions are forbidden also. So now let's move to the classroom to understand what. So now in the classroom we studied electronic transition with the selection rule. Now the first selection rule is spin transition involving change in spin is forbidden. It means delta S is equal to 0. That means whenever electron migrate from the lower energy level to higher energy level, it does not change its spin. It remains as it is. So suppose the electron spin in the ground state plus 1 half, the same spin remains constant in the excited state, and that's why it becomes plus 1 half. So plus 1 half minus plus 1 half is equal to 0. That means here there is no change in the spin of electron whenever it migrates from the lower energy level to higher energy level, and that's why these transitions are allowed. Now the second one is certain transitions are disallowed by symmetry properties of the molecule. So according to selection rule, we need to decide the symmetry properties of these transitions, and according to that we need to know which transitions are allowed and which transitions are disallowed. Here in the below graph you can see two transitions pi to sigma star and sigma to pi star are disallowed. Why those are disallowed? So according to selection rule, according to symmetry property, and that we need to learn in the next. Now here you can see s orbital, p orbital. So s orbital is a perfectly spherical, and that's why it has center of symmetry, and that's why we can consider it is a Girard. Same way, if I am talking about p orbital or pi bonding molecular orbital, then we can consider there is no center of symmetry. So if I will put a point in the center, then I can consider that upper and below both the side there is a opposite sign, and that's why there is no center of symmetry. And if I will find it out for pi star antibonding molecular orbital, then I can find it out here there is a center of symmetry, and that's why in the pi star antibonding orbital there is a center of symmetry. So here we can consider that pi bonding molecular orbital, which is a perfectly un-Girard because there is no center of symmetry, and pi star antibonding orbital, which is a perfectly Girard which has center of symmetry. So now un-Girard to Girard, that means according to selection rule this transition is perfectly possible. Now we next talk about the sigma bonding orbital and sigma star antibonding orbital. So here you can perfectly see sigma bonding orbital, in which if I will put a point in the middle, then both the side, left hand side and right hand side, I get similar sign, and that means we can consider as a center of symmetry. That means I can consider G, that means Girard. And if I am talking about this particular sigma star antibonding or molecular orbital, then I can consider this is perfectly un-Girard because it has no center of symmetry, because if I will put a point in the middle and I will find it out both the side there is a different sign, and that's why there is no center of symmetry. So now we can consider sigma bonding molecular orbital, which is a Girard which has center of symmetry, and sigma star which is an anti-bonding molecular orbital which has no center of symmetry, and that's why Girard to un-Girard, according to selection rule, electronic transitions are possible. So here we can consider both the transitions sigma to sigma star and pi to pi star. According to selection rule, those are symmetrically allowed, and that's why the transitions are possible. Now the next one is in the graph you can see here pi to sigma star and sigma to pi star. Why these two transitions are disallowed? So we know that pi, which is a mu, and sigma star is also mu, both are un-Girard because both have no center of symmetry, and that's why we can consider this transition is perfectly disallowed according to selection rule. Now next one is sigma to pi star. So sigma is a Girard and pi star is also Girard, and that's why both have center of symmetry, and according to selection rule Girard to Girard electronic transition is not possible, and that's why according to selection rule this sigma to pi star transition is disallowed according to symmetry properties. So out of 6 transitions we conclude that sigma to sigma star, pi to pi star transitions are allowed, pi to sigma star, sigma to pi star transitions are disallowed. Now we talk about n to pi star and n to sigma star transitions. n to pi star and n to sigma star transitions, in which non-bonding electron pair which are present in the ground state and they do not have a symmetry, and that's why those are symmetrically forbidden. So that's why n to pi star and n to sigma star, these are symmetrically forbidden. So this is all about electronic transitions. We know that now which transitions are symmetrically allowed, which transitions are symmetrically disallowed, and which transitions are symmetrically forbidden. Now sigma to sigma star and pi to pi star symmetrically allowed, and that's why they have a high intensity, and n to sigma star and n to pi star transitions are symmetrically forbidden, and that's why they have a low intensity peak that we can find it out whenever we can take UV spectra. So UV visible spectroscopy generally we can measure in the range of 200 to 800 nanometer, in which UV region which we consider generally 200 to 400 nanometer, and less than 200 nanometer generally we can consider as a cutoff point, because less than 200 nanometer, if we are going to measure oxygen which is present in the air, it can also absorb radiation, and that's why we cannot get the spectra of UV for the substance. Now next one is example of sigma to sigma star transitions. So which particular compound can give me sigma to sigma star transitions? The one is alkane. All of you can see that ethane, propane, butane, these all are alkanes in which saturated single bond is present. These all are saturated compound. There is no double bond, and that's why only single sigma bond is present, and that's why sigma to sigma star transition is possible. There is no electronegative atom also present. But if I am talking about N2 sigma star transition, it can be given by the saturated compound which contain electronegative atom, oxygen, sulfur, nitrogen, halogen, this type of element. If these are present with saturated compound, then they can give me N2 sigma star transitions. So here we can get the example alcohol, amines, haloalkanes. These are the certain examples in which we can easily get N2 sigma star transition, because all are sigma bonded or saturated compound and they contain electronegative element, and that's why they can give me N2 sigma star transition. But generally we can get peak below the cutoff point or near the cutoff point, and that's why, and with very low intensity, and that's why we can consider certain compounds as a solvent, just like methanol or ethanol. Generally ethanol we can use as a solvent. Now if we can talk about pi to pi star transition, then most of the unsaturated compound can give me pi to pi star transitions, in which basic examples are alkenes and alkynes. In alkenes and alkynes, one double bond and two double bonds are present, which gives me pi bond presence, and that's why it can easily give me pi to pi star transitions. If I am talking about N2 pi star transition, then the certain compound in which electronegative elements just like oxygen, nitrogen, these are present, that compound give me N2 pi star transition. If I am talking about the examples just like ketone or cyanides or aldehyde, in which double bond is present, that means what, pi bond is present, and electronegative elements are also present, and that's why they can give me N2 pi star transition. This compound also gives me pi to pi star transition because it contains pi bond. So these are the specific example of each transitions. But if I am talking about suppose acetone, then in acetone all the four transitions are possible because of sigma bond is present, that's why sigma to sigma star, sigma bond is present and electronegative atom is present, that's why N2 sigma star. Third one is double bonds are present, that means what, pi bond is present, that means what, pi to pi star transition, and electronegative element is present, that's why it can give me N2 pi star transition also. So this is the example in which we can get, or according to that we can know that which transitions are possible in which type of compound. So now we conclude with this lecture. In this lecture what we studied, so what is electronic transition, what is quantized energy, how many transitions are possible in the UV visible spectroscopy, and out of those which transitions are allowed, which transitions are disallowed, which transitions are perfectly forbidden. Whenever we have this type of question, we need to know the basic theme, and once you remember this basic thing, you can learn properly UV visible spectroscopy. So now this is all about the basic electronic transition of UV visible spectroscopy.